I, I just, I could cite another example where a former colleague built a house on Albion Ridge Road, or had a house on Albion Ridge Road, and one of Mr. Carter and my favorite people decided to build a house right smack in the middle of his view shed, and she could have moved the house one way or the other. But if I mentioned her name, we would all know why she didn't do it. She was told by staff when she inquired, by the supervisor when he invoked his non-legal information and judgment, you better just try to make friends with the guy that's, you better try to make friends with her. I told my former colleague, because you aren't going to convince her of doing anything different. But this idea that we're protecting a viewscape, sorry, I'm going to be on the side of property rights right here. If you want that property, you buy it from him. If you want to tear down that fence, you buy the property and you pay whatever price he wants. If he doesn't want to sell it, that's the way it is. Private property rights prevail here. I find it funny to be on this side of this particular issue, but I also am embarrassed that I even have to enter into this kind of a discussion. This is not what we're up here for, to arbitrate on matters we know nothing about, as I am clearly demonstrating at the moment.
Thank you, Supervisor. Comments of other board members? Supervisor Pinches?
Well, that's kind of tough to follow, but I'll try. First of all, to the Carters, I disagree with what your attorney said when he says that I often take away people's property right. I don't agree with that a bit. But I do agree that, and I built a lot of fences in my life, for most of them for containment of livestock, some of them for showing where property lines are. This actually does neither. If it was about containing people coming on the property, then it would have wings north and south, or east and west wings, to keep the people from coming from the north and the south. I stayed over in Walla 3 weeks ago and spent the morning kind of walking around there, and so I'm a little bit familiar. If I'd have known this issue was coming up, I'd walked a little further north. But, you know, I see the most people encroaching the ocean on that area is coming from the area toward the town of Walla to the south. And so if the interest of this fence was to protect trespassers, you say, from coming onto that property, it would be, the fence would have a east-west lateral to protect that. This has none. So I have to agree with, not that I've ever seen a spite fence in my life, but that language, I feel, certainly qualifies that. And as far as, I think I have a pretty firm record of being a private property rights person, but first of all, the Coastal Act is all about protecting the coastline to include the views of the coast. That, to me, that's the primary thing that we want out of the Coastal Act, was to protect how people view the ocean, to keep the same views and the coast in the same pristine shape for our next generation. So I think it is all about partly view sheds. I don't think you can, if you say it's not, then I think that'd be in direct violation of the Coastal Act. So, and I do believe a person has the right to build his fence, but this clearly takes away from the rights. You know, why do people buy a lot on the coast? Because they love the view, and if that view is interrupted, it affects people's property rights and property values. So, anyways, that's all I have to say.
Other members of the board? Supervisor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I'll direct these questions to Mr. Lynch. So, Mr. Lynch, on this prescriptive rights issue, is that something that you see is looming as an issue in this case, or not?
Not for this board.
Okay. Because I didn't see where it surfaced with respect to what we're being asked to do, which is just literally a fence.
Right.
Do you believe that the construction of the fence denies property rights to the Carters?
Not as it affects the county of Mendocino. It's purely a civil matter.
Right. So I'd like to go to council on this. I mean, council, you've listened to this discussion. Mr. Lynch read a section of the local coastal act. I mean, I see this as really, I mean, you could frame it as a private property rights issue. You could frame it as a coastal viewshed matter, but I really think what's before us is, it really comes down to, no matter what we think about the height of the fence or this particular aspects of the fence or why they want to do it, I don't think it's our job to second guess, do they want to do it for security reasons? Are they being spiteful? Are they doing it because, according to Mr. Plenty, there was an act of trespass on their property which involved removing of vegetation? I mean, all of these things may or may not even be the reason they want to build the fence. I don't know. I mean, I don't think their motives for building the fence are what are before us today. So I'm just literally looking at the specifics of what we're asked to do. Now, you've taken it through the coastal development permit process, is that correct?
Correct.
And you feel that you have adequately vetted and explored the findings. I mean, obviously, if you put your name on it, I would think so. So I guess I want to go to council to comment on that. I mean, findings are part of the record, and they're part of what we're weighing in on. And I think that we really ought to hear from council on this. I mean, I might have an opinion